I wanted you to talk about what you talked about before we got online, about the misconception that people had about Dr. King, because I think it's very important for us to hold our leaders up in their proper light. And I agree with you with a lot of people, for some reason, thought that he was some passive, docile man that was just, you know, white people celebrate him so much. Why? Because he was the antithesis of Malcolm X, they thought. But he wasn't a punk, and I hate when people say that.
Listen, the first book my father ever gave me was Message to the Black Man by Elijah Muhammad. Second book my father ever gave me was the autobiography of Malcolm X. So, you know, anybody that knows me, knows my history, knows I love the NOI, I love the Nation of Islam because of the way that they transform niggas into gods. You know what I mean? Like that evolution of man that comes with, you know, being in the NOI. Like I think Malcolm X is one of the greatest stories of a man who evolved, you know, ever. Right? So I grew up loving Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Minister Farrakhan. I grew up loving that radicalness, right? And over the last probably like 5, 6 years, 7 years, when you start really doing research about Martin Luther King Jr. and reading about Martin Luther King Jr., because I had to start studying Martin Luther King Jr. in a real way because he actually got legislation changed. So that always intrigued me. You know, when you start, you know, realizing that you need a mean inside-outside game. So you need the Nation of Islam who's like, F that, we need to separate, let them give us our reparations, and we'll go on about our way. But then you have Martin Luther King Jr. who goes, no, we're here in America. It ain't about separating, it's about them treating us equally. But when you look at the radical things that he actually had to do in order to get those things done, like it really bothers me when I see people post things like, we are not our ancestors. Yeah, we not, because we kind of pussy. No, not kind of. We all pussy compared to them. You know, when people say I'm more Malcolm than Martin, what does that even mean? Because I love Malcolm X. I have a Malcolm X charm. I love everything that he stands for. But I've seen Martin on the front lines of fights way more than Malcolm. You know, when you watch Malcolm X's documentary, that was one of his, you know, his issues with, you know, the NOI, because, you know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was like, no, we're not going down there. Like, he did want to go down to Selma, and, you know, he did want to go be on the front lines and stand with those brothers and sisters while they was getting their asses kicked, okay? But to act like Martin was not gangster, Martin was at front lines every fight, literally. He's the one getting sprayed with the hoses. He's the one getting hit with the billy clubs. He's the one getting dog sticked on him. And let's not act like people around him were punks. Stokely Carmichael then wasn't no punk. Stokely Carmichael then wasn't with that nonviolent shit. They was like, nah, we gonna bust heads when heads need to be busted. So it's just like, it bothers me when people act like Martin Luther King Jr. was just some chump. There was nothing, absolutely nothing chump about Martin Luther King Jr. Actually, the way he was like a stoic. He was patient. He was calm. You know, you know how we can't even control our emotions on Twitter.
Yeah.
Somebody say something else on Twitter, we ready to clap back and fuck you and this and that. Martin was getting busted upside the head with billy clubs and still was like, no, we're not doing none of that. We're going to be steadfast in our nonviolent approach. That don't make him pussy. That shows me a man whose mental fortitude, emotional fortitude can't be moved. That's more gangster to me than anything. That man had an emotional IQ that was through the roof. You know what I'm saying? Like, people with low emotional IQ, they'll shoot you because you stepped on their sneakers. That don't make you gangster. That make you corny. That actually make you stupid. Yeah. High emotional IQ is somebody step on your shoe and you be like, hey, it's okay, brother. I forgive you. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't see how people act like Martin Luther King Jr. was a punk at all. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And you know, it's funny because even though before he died, his daughter said he was on the list of the most hated men in America, and she said, stop quoting my father. She was like, you guys are. My father was one of the most hated men in America, and so please stop using him as an excuse to tolerate abuse, because in essence is what she was saying. The thing is that he said, I'm afraid I've assimilated my people into a burning house.
Yeah, I'm afraid I've integrated my people into a burning house. See, that's the other thing too. They don't ever talk about the Martin Luther King Jr. towards the end of his life, who was having conversations with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was getting a lot more radical you know, and his approach to things, because, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. had gotten to the point where he realized it wasn't about civil liberties. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about civil rights. It was about that money. You know what I mean? Martin Luther King Jr. literally was saying, like, we going to DC to get our check. Like, literally, that was his words verbatim. So I would encourage everybody to watch, it's a documentary called King in the Wilderness. Mm-hmm. It literally documents the last 8 months of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. And it's documented with videos, pictures, speeches. It's the last 8 months of his life. And, you know, he died with anxiety and depression because of what you just said. Like, you know, he was hated. His own people didn't like him. They were calling him an Uncle Tom and a coon. Like, Malcolm X used to keep his foot on Martin Luther King Jr.'s neck. But literally all he was doing was he was out there fighting for us. Like, y'all talk about canceling people. Oh, these Negroes was definitely canceling Martin Luther King Jr. They couldn't understand why Martin Luther King Jr. was having conversations with John F. Kennedy, why he was pushing the line on Lyndon B. Johnson to get things done. Like, he's like, why are you talking to these racists like Lyndon B. Johnson? And guess what? He actually got things done. He got legislation done. We are in the positions that we're in this country right now because of Martin Luther King Jr. So everybody go watch King in the Wilderness. That's what it's called. King in the Wilderness is a documentary. It's on Amazon. It is incredible. It documents the last 8 months of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. You can see how much of a gangster Martin Luther King Jr. was.